Hi, my name is Benedict. You might remember me from heavy-handed moderations in such groups as Songwriters, the group for which I'm directly making this, but it will be available to anybody, anywhere, because it is great basics. And that's a big thing for me. I really hate seeing all these people going, I can't, it's not possible for me. Stephen Hawking was a messed up duck, but look what he achieved. Johnny Cash, later in life, was a messed up, well, was barely a duck anymore by the American Songwriter records, but rather than say, I can't, he and Rick Rubin, who was a big factor in those records, said, what can I do? So as a result, his cover of Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails' Hurt, is considered one of the most powerful songs ever laid down. And it's very much a case of in your face, Trent, because this is how that song should have been delivered. And I think he even admits that. So instead of all this I can't, this, that and the other, and therefore using excuses to take the lazy road, which is invariably going to Susunio, let's look at the very basics and how quickly we can move. I will start by saying straight up, I can move quickly because I've been doing this for over 35 years. When I started out, it would take me like 4 hours to do the simplest thing. But because I was driven, and also because there weren't lazy solutions, there weren't loops, there weren't here I'll do it for you isms, you just had to do it. I sat on the floor and wired things together, and it was a pain in the patootie. So the DAW now, the workspace for any working musician, is just oh my god, how easy is this? So don't expect your speed to be the same, but also understand how and why I work quickly, why I move quickly. Because the longer you sit there going, I don't know what to do. Okay, let me move again. My youngest daughter, when she was very young, would immediately seize on anything that she hadn't done before, or even things she had done before. She would just go and lock down. And I ended up, I observed her as I observe everyone, and I realised that what she did was she would say to herself, I don't know what to do next. So I'd say to her, look, what you've done is created a 1-2 death scenario. I have a problem, I don't know what to do, I'm going to die. Okay, fair enough. If you're going to die, why not at least give it a go? Because if you gave it a go and still died anyway, you are no worse off. And at least you get to heaven or hell having tried. And hell is paved with people who didn't try, hence all their anger, some of which was directed at me just as I was starting this, which you will feel bleed off me, unfortunately. Somebody who never had the to actually try and made up a whole lot of stuff and abused me, accused me of being incompetent and never having done anything, and it's like, dude, get out there and actually have a look, which he may have done already, and you realise that I've done shitloads of stuff. Okay, I'm not Elvis, I'm not Gene Simmons, but I've done shitloads of stuff, therefore I have a right to speak. You don't have to agree with me, but being a dick about it is, again, a way to avoid doing the real work. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to actually do the real work. This is unscripted. Alrighty, getting into it. I have a synth sound that I have made. Only took me a few seconds to make this. I had no plan. I just opened the instrument and sort of said, okay, song gods, what's here for you? Came up with this. And straight away, it suggested something to me. It spoke to me because I was listening. I wasn't sitting here going, I don't know what to do with this. What am I supposed to do because of all those rules and all that kind of bullshit that we fill our heads with to support our fears? I named it. So now I own this, I identify this thing, this sound. And I step out of there and I go to my sequencer because this is where stuff happens. I'm going to give myself a couple of bars, I don't know how much I'm going to need, but I had a melodic idea, which I think probably is going to go something like this. Let's see what I've got. I'm freewheeling here. I like that, except it cuts off. So we need that to work a little bit longer. Now, I know that it needs to work longer because I just threw something at the page and then checked it, listened to it to say, how do I feel about this? What do I feel needs to come next? Now, I have put this in loop, but in the real world, especially when you're beginning, it's better to do this. Now you're asking yourself what comes next. If you put it into loop mode, there is no desire to ask what comes next. You'll just keep hammering the same thing over and over and over again, and that's a really boring song, which is a bad call for you because it's a lose for you. So now you see how easy it was to put down notes. In most DAWs, there can be layers of tools and stuff, but in most DAWs, you've got key combinations. In Reason, I press Alt, and my pointy thing, Control Z to undo, my pointy thing becomes a do stuff thing. And I can change various tools and what have you. That's the way you make it fast and easy. So I've got a statement, a motif, a statement, and we have to vary that. So it's got to be followed by something which is not exactly the same, or at least never more than 3 times exactly the same, unless you are really hammering a point home, and I mean hammering that with Thor's Mjolnir, biggest, deadliest hammer in the known universe, making a point. So let's just try this. This is what's called a variation. Most people refuse to learn variations, and this is where they just die with it, bullet to foot, every day. Learn variations as fast as you can. The moment you can put notes down, learn variations. The best way to learn variations is to just do it. In most schools, like serious schools, universities or what have you, you would go to your lecture, you'd go to the tutor on composing, and he would say, okay, tomorrow I want 40 variations on do. I don't know whether they do that way anymore. People would go, oh, but that's mean, it's like having to write lines. Yes, it is, because by going, how can I do same but different? And doing it over and over and over again, the more you practice it, the more the old noggin has answers. So remember my daughter, 1 to death, because she always says, problem, I don't know, I'm going to die with this. When the brain is full of ways problems have been solved before, it can go, I have a problem, I'm not sure what to do, and then it can go, but I do know that I did this before in that other situation, or I saw somebody else do this in their situation, or, and you keep moving through possible solutions by actually doing them, which is why I put this down as soon as I thought I could do that, so that I could test to see if it works. And you know what? It does. Now, what do I hear coming next? Well, you know what? I hear something a little different. Whoop, not like that, like that. I'm not sure what these notes should be based upon what I hear. So again, I'm just going to go... That is a variation. See how we've got the da-da-da, da-da-da, and then I've just changed the way the pattern works. I've got the same pattern elements, but I've changed the way they work. But I've also still continued the going down, step down, or a couple of steps down. So I'm not convinced that's actually what we want there, but I'm not going to let that get in the way. I'm not going to obsess. I'm now going to make another variation. Got to zoom in a bit to actually be sure that I'm being tidy. Let's try this. Okay, that one was too short. We broke our convention, and it just doesn't speak that short. But I think this might work now. Let's pull this all into view so you can follow the bouncing ball. Okay, I'm not 100% about this bit, not because it's wrong, but just because it sounds more like an ending. But I'm going to go with it for now. So rather than leave lots of little blocks everywhere, because lots of little blocks is really confusing, I'm going to join them up. So I have now made the statement that this is my core musical statement. My core musical statement is built out of these fragments like sentences, but that's my core musical statement that says do 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 do. Hit every note wrong, but that is not the point. It's the movement. Okay, now there are various options we can do from here. I will tend to actually move forward, but if I keep moving forward here, it's probably not giving you all the help that you need. But note, at this point it is better to move forward to progress this melody. You might say, okay, I'm going to take a copy of that and now I'm going to change something. Let's actually give that a go. I'm slightly sus on this one, so let's see what happens if we do this. Okay. Alright, there we go. I'm happy with that. See, I just felt like, so I knew it, and it's because of 35 years of doing it. So I've now doubled my song length, and I've got variation. These two are very similar to one another, but there's that little bit in the middle that's different. And while it's easy to say, oh, well, we'll just keep looping that loop forever, especially if your DAW encourages you to work that way, to be lazy, to make you feel like you're having wins that you're not having as you're actually digging a hole under your own feet that you are going to fall into. We've now got variations. So we've now got two parts. We are going to move forward because we must move forward. I'm going to push back to this. Actually, and we're going to need a new sound. I'm going to go, what am I going to go next? Bass. We need a bass line to go with this. The easiest way to make a bass line will be, let's go with this guy. Note, I'm not going to get caught in anything, because that's a really bad way to, and I always turn off BPM sync and everything. Everything's going to sound off to you because I'm in headphones. I never work in headphones. Again, I'm going to make sure that this is named. So that one was voice check. This one we're going to very imaginatively name for its role. I hate being sent over mixes where I've got the name of a synthesizer or the name of the person who played it. I don't care if Slash played the lead in the Guns N' Roses song or not. It's irrelevant. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't help us to understand what's going on. But if this is marked as lead guitar, I'm going to look at that and go, this is the lead guitar. So name functionally. Now, this is really important when you work and when you get a workspace. Look for this where you can pile and view several tracks worth of notes at once. So see, now I can see my voice and I can compare it against my bass notes. My very, very bad bass notes at the moment, but that's just so that you can see and go, oh, we can work together. Because if you try to write your bass notes without being able to see the other track, which is hard because I'm in that mode, then you're going to have issues. So make sure that you can see. Now, the easiest way to write a bass line is to work with the same, what's called root note. We haven't got into chords here, but let's assume that all of these are the root note of your chord, or at least that that is the root note of your chord. Easy to go, I'm going to play the lowest note that I possibly can before it sounds like a broken Harley, but no, it needs to be up in the listenable and the punch range. So I'm going to start by going, let's go with the obvious, and see what this feels like. Remember, I'm freestyling here, and this is composing. Let's see if we can move that so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. That works. And we're emphasizing the important bits. We can get creative here, but I don't want to do that too much. Now, at this point, we know that it's going to drop a semitone. So let's, again, just copify. And we know we're dropping a semitone because that's on B, this is on B. It is possible to compose right on top in the same octave, but it gets messy, so it's better to learn to do it where it belongs. Now that we can tell, it's come too early. Now, while there's a little bit of disharmony here, it's still leading to where we're going. So there are various solutions, which I'm not going to get into here because that's getting technical, but that's still okay. It's interesting. We don't want to have too much disharmony because that becomes problematic. Now we know the next note is going up. So let's do this. Now our next thing is different, which means our bass line either needs to be different or we want to keep our bass line kind of the same. Let's see what we end up with. So we're going with A and then G as our root notes. Okay, that's all right. What if we move this up? Wonderful. Except that's supposed to be an A, I believe, but either was doable. Because this is a B and that's our leading note, I'm happy to leave that at a B because it works. And then of course we've got our last bit. Interesting, that's an A, and we've got so let's get ourselves back on the root, and we're going to our C because this is clearly in C major, the only key ever worth working in. No, learn your other keys and scales. Alright, again we've settled with the B because we've established that that's what we're going to do, and here we've got a B and a D playing together, and that is known as the Devil's Tritone, and leads us to the root. So it couldn't be any better because we've now got what's called a cadence. Now there's one note I didn't love. It wasn't a wrong note, but it just wasn't a good note. So that's a... what if we do this? I wasn't sure, I wanted to move really quickly, so with just a basic understanding of theory, chances are the root note of the whole piece, C for C major, will do. There would be a better note, but that will do to keep us moving along. We can copy this off over here, and it should largely match. Except that does not match, understandably, because... okay. Easy. Through understanding our basics of harmony, and I've linked to his course lots and lots of times, I'll try and put a picky up there, I know that I can make these choices really easily and really fast. And again, you're going to be thinking, but I don't know what to do. Okay, it's through repetition and it's through doing your basics. Your basics are by learning your octave and how it works and getting in and doing this. There is no way you can sit back in the other room, as my daughter used to try to do, and solve your problems before you actually get out there, pick them up and look at them. I can't turn that up because it's full of water. You've got to be able to pick them up, turn them around and look at them, which you have seen me do here by putting in all of the things and then going, what have I got? Collectively, what have we got? I have now written the music which would be the first verse or first two verses. Done! I could sing over the top of that. None of you necessarily going to welcome me doing that, and I have no words, no sense of them, so not relevant, and it would just come off as goofy to do it. But that's it. That's how it works. I've done it lots of times. The next thing that a lot of you are going to want to do is to add drums. I would avoid adding drums, but because I know you're going to be obsessed with it and not happy until they're there, then we will do that. What do I want? I don't like drum samples. I just don't. So let's go with... actually... MT Power Drum Kit. This is free, although they do ask for a donation. Sadly and stupidly I have not, probably because I forget the moment that I've moved on. I will invert pan in this because that is set to what's called drummer's position, like hearing the drums as though you were the drummer, which is fine when you are the drummer, but is not so good when you are the audience. And when you are writing a song, who are you writing for? The drummer? No, you're writing for the audience. So you can mix however you want, but it's probably wiser to mix the drum kit as though the person were in the audience. So they are going to hear the hi-hat, which the drummer would hear on their left ear. They're actually going to hear it on their right ear, because when they're looking at the kit, the hi-hat is there. Okay. Little tip, but these are the little things that make the difference between something that sort of feels organic and something that just seems naff. So I have a kit. Go over into my sequencer. Again, I go back to 2 bars. 2 bars is my chunk. 1 bar is a dumb chunk as a general rule of thumb. It is possible, in the old days, lots of songs used to be, like really old days, pre-rock and roll, lots of songs used to be written on 1 bar chunks. So it's not a thou shalt not, but I think 2 bars is better. kick, snare, kick, snare. Basic as all get out. People here will get all kinds of and think they're being the funky drummer. No, that's a mess. And the problem with that is it undoes. What you may have noticed when I did the bass line for our melody was I enhanced the drive of the melody. I didn't just clone it, I didn't make the bass line more funkified than the lead, because the lead's the important thing. And then when the vocal goes on top of that, that's more important than the synthesizer, the bass, and the drums. Even though I made all of those and the vocalist was a bloody singing loser. That's ego. And really, really stupid. Because when you put the song out on the radio, the listener is listening to the song. They're not there to hear how funky your drums are. They're listening to the song as a whole, and they actually want to hear, or more to the point, feel the words. Most people have no idea what the words really are, and often get them very, very wrong. But nonetheless, the words are the lead, so let them stay there. So let's go back. Kick, snare, kick, snare. Let's just try again. Now we know that could use a bit more, so we put it in. Brilliant. Let's just loop that so that we don't get lost. Now we need something here, and the common thing is going to be hi-hats. So with a hi-hat you commonly have a fully closed hat, which is the really short one. You can have a semi-open, which is a semi-long one, and then the full open one, where your hi-hat becomes a little cymbal. So open and closed hats are the common thing, and you build a rhythm with that. So there's a natural sense of a boom, something there, so the one and. So, cool. Now we need to be a little bit careful as to programming something that a drummer might play, just like the thing that I programmed before, probably requires a few more arms to do. I'm not pedantic about that. Obviously, if it's a country song and we're supposed to believe that John Bonham is actually playing behind John Fogerty in the Johns of the... John, yeah, we probably don't want to have an octopus drummer. But, just keep with what feels good. That's all that matters. Okay. Okay, there. This. We're going to drop that right down and go with a semi. Let's see what happens. See how we've now really just made our rhythmic element of our melody so much stronger, and therefore we've made our melody stronger. Chances are the drums are too loud. It's almost always that we're going to make our drums too loud. Now again, we're just going to not do that, we're going to clone this. Not by saying I want this to be a looped clone, as in this needs to be an individualized copy so that we can do something to it. There needs to be something else. Okay, that happened. I'll roll with it. What do we get? Yeah, I see where I'm going. Let's see if we can find an actual. Yeah, that's fine. But that crash is more of a let's get this party started right sort of a thing, I think. I do personally think that sticks out a little too much, and it's these little details that make a difference, so I want to highlight both of those and just make them a little less. Never overdo it. Much better. Styling. So again, I'm going to clone this and make a variation. We did that before, so what if we put it over here? Lovely. Now this is going to be the end. We're going to need some Tommy-ery. Again, I can do this because I've done this so many times. I'm going to join that. That is now this whole phrase. I'm going to clone that again. And I know I only probably need to work on the end. I would actually do more variations. But let's get rid of that guy. So again, we don't end up with an octopus situation. Let's go with really quiet, pretty quiet, and see what happens here. And this is where we have to be careful we don't make a mess. Okay, it's a little overdone. See if we can rescue it. We may not. Yeah, partly because I have used offbeat hits. And that's a good way to make things sound odd. Let's get rid of that. Or actually, let's consider putting it here. It's just quiet. It's not the best I've ever done, but when you're doing it in real time, it really is. Okay, in context, it's good enough. Now what I'm doing here is not a thing that, it's a more of a mixing thing, but you will find, that it's hard to feel like your drums and bass really belong together until you make this move. So if we just solo this is a way of putting them into a bus, as in we route them all to a channel, which is then routed to the masters, lets us easily listen to them all at once. You could equally do solo, or mute. But once you understand the power of buses, it's far better to just go straight to a bus. If you don't understand buses, don't get caught. Just do solo, or mute, and work on it. The very first thing we need to do is make sure that our drums and bass work together. Now, in headphones at least, they groove. They have become as one. Whereas before, they were sounds that were there together, but they hadn't got that move. Now, this is what's called natural balance. Most people, when they're trying to mix, and you will have to try to mix your creation, or it's going to sound just upside down, they go straight past natural balance and start layering on plugins and all kinds of, well, absolute BS. And then they wonder why it sounds worse. So here, I'm watching time. Here, we found a point at which this balances naturally. Easy to say, very drummy, but it doesn't sit well with the kit, with the bass. Hear how that has more power overall? The bass line, which is kind of flat and straight here, develops a real kind of drive in the important points, because we've got the bass and the kick drum, but all the percussion parts together. Not just sounding together, but working together. So we found natural balance. And if you can't hear it, just go back around and in your own door, do that until you find the point where you go, how did that happen? That's called natural balance. If you're forcing it, if you're trying to take the 1-2 death approach, you won't hear anything. You won't feel squat. It's a feeling thing. You've got to relax and just go. And you see here that I took this one to nothing, because I decided, okay, I'm going to use my bass as the spindle rather than the drum kit, because that's an arms race. That actually works, and if the mix was right for the piece, I would go there. There, I can't remember what the number I had before, but there is this strong sense of boom, boom, boom. We've now got groove, despite everything being rigid and on the thing. That really is absolutely everything that we need to do. Past, you're saying, okay, I've now got a verse, and going, okay, I'm going to need to write a chorus. A lot of songwriters, as I've mentioned many times, will actually start by writing the chorus, because we know where our targets are, and then we strip that back and write the verses to lead into what we already know as the chorus. But in this case, you know, we're going to go from where we are. Writing in a straight line is probably easier than writing in a, I'm going to go back to that kind of a thing. That takes experience. So write in a straight line. My song is coming up to the chorus. I want to go and have a hit song now. Oh my god, I sung. See how easily I do it? Did not say I did it well, but how easily I did it. That's just going, who gives a flying banana peel what some idiot who probably never finished a song in his pathetic, angry little life is going to say, because he is a... My job is to get a song done, and you see there that by following it, letting it flow, I've now got a sense of where that chorus could well go. I don't actually know what note I sung, and I probably sung it out of tune and out of time and with a horrible tone, but it doesn't matter, I can feel it. Which means that with experience in particular, I can go, okay, I'm now going to add, what's my note? It helps to know where I've come from. Always work with targets. Oops, working the wrong thing. We took a fair leap. Maybe it was here. That's perfect. And I know that that's a great place to start. It's a safe place to start because this is our root note, C. And that's a fifth up. I may, when I sung, have actually gone for a key change, but that's not as easy to do as you think. I could be bold and go for a... But you hear that's just a little... It feels like a step too far. That's also going to work really nicely too, because it's a perfect fourth. So chances are, what I wrote was that. now I have the beginnings of a chorus. I'm not going to go over doing that, but we would now have in our sequencer, verse, chorus, chorus. Then if we want another verse, we might put that in there. Another chorus, chorus. See, the song's pretty well arranged itself already. It's all working. I would make another drum pattern for the chorus, so it's a little bit busier, a little bit more up and happening, because you generally want a chorus to rise. A chorus that goes, ooh, and I hear plenty of them, is not a good call, simply because people aren't going to rise to the Dancing Queen occasion. They're just going to go, yeah, that's boring, and leave. There's a million ways to make a song, and you can make it however you want, but if you want to win, there are certain conventions that it's worth being aware of. You don't have to follow them, but it's worth being aware of them to decide, does that suit here, or should I go completely in the opposite direction and confuse the ad of them so they all go and go, what a cool thing was that, because you surprised them. That's it. All you have to do is keep doing this, and you have to practice it. If you have questions, ask here, or if you're getting this from within the songwriters group, ask in the songwriters group. Please do not PM me unless you are looking to hire. Private work, hired. Public work in YouTube, on the group, what have you, I will give you a ton of time, provided you keep working forward positively. Alrighty, get out there, have a good day.